Visual, dark, eerie city streets at night, the sound of distant sirens wailing. A deep-voiced narrator speaks narrator. A quiet neighborhood. A seemingly ordinary man. But behind closed doors, a terrifying secret lurked. This is the story of the man they called the Corpse Collector, one of the most chilling serial killers in history. The discovery. Visual. Archival footage of police tape, crime scene photos, detectives walking in and out of an apartment building. Narrator. It began with a simple welfare check. When authorities entered the small, cluttered apartment, they were unprepared for the horrors they would find. Interview. Retired Detective John Michaels. First responder on the scene. Detective Michaels. I've seen a lot in my years on the force, but this was something else. The stench hit us first. Then, as we stepped inside, we saw the remains, dozens of bodies, some preserved, some decomposing. It was like walking into a nightmare. Visual. Newspaper headlines flashing across the screen. House of Horrors found, bodies piled like trash. Narrator. The apartment belonged to a man named Harold Grayson, a name soon to be etched into the annals of crime history. But how did this unassuming figure evade capture for so long? Act 2. The man behind the monster. Visual. Old photographs of Harold Grayson as a child, footage of suburban streets, a high school yearbook. Narrator. Born in 1965 in a small town in Indiana, Harold Grayson was described as quiet, introverted, and awkward. A loner. But there were early warning signs. Interview. Childhood friend, Mark Reynolds. Mark Reynolds. He was always obsessed with death. I mean, most kids are afraid of dead things. Harold wasn't. He collected roadkill, dissected small animals. We all thought it was weird, but we never imagined it would turn into this crime scene reenactment. Flickering between Harold's apartment and close-ups of his eerie handwritten journals, narrator Grayson's obsession grew darker with age. As an adult, he took jobs at funeral homes, morgues, and even volunteered at cemeteries. But it wasn't enough. He wanted more: control, power, possession. He wanted to collect the murders. Visual. A dimly lit alleyway. Shadowy figures moving, followed by a reenactment of Grayson luring victims. Narrator. Between 1992 and 2008, people vanished, without a trace. Most were drifters, runaways, people society overlooked, but in reality, they had fallen prey to the corpse collector. Dr. Hopkins. Grayson was methodical. He chose victims who wouldn't be immediately missed. He manipulated them, sometimes posing as a good Samaritan, offering food, shelter. Once they trusted him, it was over. Visual. Flashbacks of Grayson's apartment. The jars filled with preserved body parts. Sketches of his collection. Narrator. His compulsion to kill was matched only by his need to keep trophies. Some victims were mummified, others preserved in chemicals. It wasn't just murder, it was possession. Act 4. The capture. Visual. Footage of the police raid. Officers moving in, arresting Grayson. Narrator. Grayson's reign of terror ended in 2008 when an anonymous tip led police to his door. What they found inside sent shockwaves through the nation. Interview. Prosecutor Linda Davies. His journals were disturbing, detailing his methods, his emotions, or lack thereof. He described himself as an artist, his victims as pieces of his grand exhibit. Narrator. In 2010, Harold Grayson was sentenced to life without parole. His case remains one of the most disturbing in modern history. Closing scene. Visual. The abandoned apartment, now empty. The camera slowly pans out. Narrator. What drives a person to such darkness? Was Harold Grayson born a monster, or was he created by his circumstances? Perhaps we will never know. But what we do know is that the horrors of the Corpse Collector will never be forgotten. End credits roll. The screen fades to black, leaving only the echo of a haunting melody lingering in the background.